Hi, I'm Geoff Dean, your Player Development Director. And for those of you who don't know, I am back at the club teaching full-time. So if you're interested in an in-person golf lesson, I am available. Just contact me at gdean@pgawest.com. However, we are going to be continuing our weekly coaching tips, so stay tuned for more. And today's coaching tip is actually going to be on ball position. It was inspired by one of our members, Les Wax, and his question simply was, talk about ball position relative to the clubs that we use. So today's coaching tip is going to talk about ball position from our wedge all the way to the driver. So join me out on the practice tee and let's take a look.
Today's coaching tip is on correct ball position. We're going to talk about how to set up to the golf ball from your wedge all the way to the driver. So let's get right into it. Let's understand that the golf clubs, whether it be a wedge all the way to the driver, bottoms out in the golf swing between, let's just say, your chin and slightly forward of your chin. Doesn't matter whether it's a wedge or all the way to the driver. The club is coming back down to the ground relative to your stance and body in a very small space. So how we set up to the golf ball is very important, but it doesn't require a ton of figuring out. So when we set up to our stance, here's how we have to establish it. Let your left foot go out about maybe 3 to 5 inches, and then let your right foot go back a little bit wider than that. Now this is for a right-handed setup. Now notice what happens here is with the wedge, when my stance is just barely past, in other words, my right foot is not much wider than my left foot. Left foot goes about 3 to 5 inches, and the right foot goes a little bit wider. That's for your wedge. What happens here is the ball position is slightly left of my belly button and slightly left of my chin. So this is a pretty good setup, and the club will bottom out right where the club is. Excuse me, the club will bottom out right where the ball is. Now when we segue up to something a little bit longer, like a 6-iron, what do we do differently? Well, the left foot goes and moves the same, 3 to 5 inches. What changes is the right foot goes a little wider. Now, what's happening here is that I will shift my center slightly to the right, because the way in which the club comes back into the golf ball, it comes from a more shallow angle into the golf ball. So it's okay that we shift our weight to the right, but the relationship of the left heel remains the same. What changes is the right foot and how wide it gets. So as I set it to a 6-iron, I let my left foot go about the same, right foot goes a little wider. So my chin is just slightly behind the golf ball, but the relationship to the left heel remains the same. When I move up to a hybrid, what happens here is the left foot again remains the same, and the right foot goes even wider. So my effective center is shifting a little bit more to the right because the club is longer and it's going to approach the ground from a shallower attack angle, and it's necessary that we move slightly to the right so that the club can swing freely and flush into the golf ball. So keep in mind again though that the ball position relative to the left heel is the same, but what we're doing is we're shifting the right heel to the right, the right foot to the right. And then the last setup here is realizing with the driver we're hitting a ball that's suspended in the air. So we cannot have a club that's descending down on the golf ball on the tee, otherwise we'll pop the ball straight up. We have to realize that we're actually hitting the driver as the club is ascending upward into the air. So if we know that the bottom of the swing arc is more or less underneath my chin, I better not put the golf ball underneath my chin when I'm hitting a driver. I better set it forward of my chin so that it will bottom out and then start to ascend and then make contact with the golf ball. So as I take my stance with the driver, I let my left foot go out, same, 3 to 5 inches, and I let my right foot go the widest. This offers stability for the longer club, but it also shifts my center slightly to the right. So technically speaking, my chin is right over the top of the driver. That allows me to make my wind up and my unwind into the golf ball. The club bottoms out right about here and then ascends into the golf ball as I'm swinging through. So what we want to make sure is that we understand ball position. As the clubs get longer, something is constant and something changes. My left foot is constant. It goes out the same every time, and then as the clubs get a little longer, my right foot goes a little wider, and then when I set up with the driver, it's the widest. So I hope this tip will help you in your efforts to establish good solid contact with the golf ball. If you have any further questions about this tip or any other, feel free to contact me at gdean@pgawest.com. Talk to you soon.